This account has been made in the wake of the most recent events at 20 Sheaf Street, also known by the locals as the Old Corbett House, located on Copp's Hill in Boston, Massachusetts, in connection with the Macario family tragedy that happened approximately 2 years ago on January 3rd, 1920. This is merely a clarifying summary of events based on statements given by all relevant witnesses. This recording is made by myself, Dr. Rupert Merriweather, Department Head of Anthropology at at Miskatonic University. The date is Saturday, September 2nd, 1922. Let it be stated here that I am of sound mind. Corroborating this statement is Professor Silas Widger, whom I sent directly to Baltimore by train approximately 2 weeks ago in order to record eyewitness accounts of what took place at the Old Corbett House 2 years past, in an attempt to make sense of what recently happened to John Quinlan, head librarian at Unit Library, and Alvin Sattler, freelance writer and author of Ghost Soldiers. Statement begins. Around 10 o'clock on a wintry Saturday night in early January, Vittorio Macario, devoted father and husband, was putting his 2 sons to bed. Since they were practicing Catholics, the older boy, Marco, age 12, and the younger boy, Anthony, age 10, recited their prayers with their father before Marco climbed the ladder to the top of their bed bunk. Their father kissed each of his boys on the forehead and told them good night, to dream sweet, and inquired if the younger boy, Anthony, had remembered to brush his teeth and to use the bathroom. The younger of his 2 sons was prone to wandering the house in the middle of the night, while the rest of the Macario family slept, and had had several accidents recently. Anthony nodded eagerly, and Vittorio, with mild suspicion, turned off the bedroom lights and presumably joined his wife, Gabriella, to get a good night's sleep before waking to attend Mass at St. Michael's early the next morning. That idyllic morning, however, never arrived for the Macario family. Earlier, the brothers had squabbled over a bottle of soda their mother had left in the icebox for them to share after church if they behaved themselves during Mass. The fight started when Marco began teasing his younger sibling, threatening to get up before dawn to drink the soda. This, in turn, led to the brothers staying up well past their bedtime as each secretly plotted their own strategy to reach the soda first. They fell asleep around the same time the grandfather clock in the living room chimed 11, lulled into unconsciousness by the winter-bare branches of an oak tree outside their window as it rattled in the wind-swept, moonlit night. Anthony awoke first, his full bladder like a fist in his groin. He slipped out of bed, accidentally kicking his toy fire truck, triggering the truck's wailing siren. Wincing, Anthony checked to see if his older brother had stirred. He hadn't. Breathing a sigh of relief, Anthony moved with greater care now, the whining floorboards betraying his every step as he crossed the bedroom. He crept down the near pitch-black hallway, first checking to make sure his parents' bedroom was dark. It was. He felt his way to the bathroom at the end of the hall and relieved himself without the benefit of an overhead light. Afterwards, he slowly descended the stairs to the kitchen. Soon after, Marco awoke. He peered over the lip of the top bunk. His brother was gone. Cursing himself, he clambered over the side and stepped halfway down the rungs of the ladder affixed to the foot of the bunk bed. It was then that he noticed a strange shadow occupying the right corner of the room. "Anthony?" Mark asked, through chattering teeth. Even wearing his warmest long johns, he shivered. Despite the foggy bedroom window being firmly shut, the room was freezing. The shadow's owner hunched slightly at the sound of his voice and appeared to bristle. Heart leaping to his throat, a pounding like a kettle drum began in Marco's temples. He heard squeaking next. The shadowy presence had a hold of something. Marco eyed the dormant light switch beside the ajar bedroom door. "Anthony," he whispered impatiently, careful not to yell in order to avoid waking his parents should his brother simply be up to his typical late-night shenanigans again. In response, the intruder slowly turned in his direction and hissed in reply. Downstairs, Anthony claimed his prize. A bottle of orange-fish soda sat perched like Aladdin's lamp on the top shelf of the icebox, the glass glittering like tiny jewels. Grinning, Anthony carefully opened the silverware drawer and retrieved a bottle opener. The cap came off with a soft musical tink, and the soda popped and fizzed in the bottle's lip. Anthony drank it all in one go. It was the best orange-fit soda he'd ever had, and the last one. After wiping his lips with the sleeve of his pajamas, he refilled the bottle from the tap, imagining with relish his older brother Marco's expression the next morning when he realized who had won their little war. But as he closed the icebox and turned to leave, the cellar door creaked open, and a dim yellow light radiated into the hallway adjacent to the kitchen. Anthony thought he heard the sound of movement below, most likely his father tinkering with one of his carpentry projects in the gentle glow of a kerosene lamp. Nervous that his father might have caught him, he tiptoed toward the stairs that led to the cellar. As he did, the grandfather clock in the living room struck 12. Upstairs, Marco desperately calculated the distance between the light switch, himself, and the malevolent entity in the corner of the increasingly oppressive atmosphere of his once perfectly safe bedroom. Sweating feverishly, he now understood. This intruder was far too tall to be his little brother, far too sinister to be anything but a nightmare in real life, one that had come crawling and breathing and hungry, so very hungry, into the waking world. The hunched presence turned to face him fully now, craning toward Marco as if in anticipation, its stick-like arms reminiscent of an insect's multi-segmented legs. The shadowy thing chittered, and whatever it had been holding slipped from its long-fingered grip, thudding wetly as it hit the floor, still twitching. There was an acrid taste in the oldest Macario boy's mouth, like he had licked a rusty nail or bit his tongue. He felt cornered, trapped, and utterly forsaken. "Dad," the youngest Macario called. From the top of the cellar stairs, no answer. Anthony braved a few steps, leaving the metaphorical harbor of the kitchen for a maiden voyage into the ominous sea of vast, dark unknown. "Daddy?" A shadow approached the bottom of the stairs, backlit by a somber glow of the kerosene lamp. "Come down here, son." It was his father's voice, but it sounded off somehow, stilted and monotone, as if his father were mumbling in his sleep. Anthony swallowed. "I had to pee, Daddy. Sorry. I'm going back to bed now." His father's shadow elongated, moving closer to the bottom of the cellar stairs. "Come down here, son. There's something I need to show you." "Sorry, Daddy. I'm very tired. Can you show me in the morning? I'd like to go back to bed, please." "Come down here," was his father's reply. "It'll only take a minute." Something is wrong, Anthony sensed now. He didn't know what exactly, but he suddenly wanted very much to find his mother. He turned to run up the stairs, but as he did, the door to the cellar swung shut. Holding his breath, Marco leapt down from the ladder he had, until that moment, maintained a death grip on, and dashed across the bedroom to the light switch. Out of the corner of his eye, the entity lurking in the corner skittered toward him, the marching rumble of its footfalls sounding as if it were moving on many more legs than merely two. Looking away, Marco reached for the black canvas of his bedroom wall, his numb fingers scrambling for the light switch. Finding it, he swiped upward as something brushed his neck, something thin and probe-like he had backed into a cobweb. Then, just as the light burst on, he saw what he had already imagined with dreadful accuracy in his mind's eye. The vile intruders loathsome face. Reared back like a cobra was a man-sized cockroach. Its long exoskeleton shone like polished brown leather. Its half a dozen legs twitched simultaneously. Its giant compound eyes were like black, multifaceted jewels reflecting the oldest Macario boy's stricken expression 100 times over. Its antenna threaded the air, which Marco realized to his endless horror had been stroking the nape of his neck no more than a few seconds earlier. Yet somehow, this was not the worst of it. Most terrifying of all was this abominable creature's mouth, or rather, where the insectoid's mouth should normally be. In place of such a mouth was instead a hissing vortex of hooked, whirring teeth. Shutting his eyes to this nightmarish monstrosity, Marco at last went to scream a scream that would not have time to come. Antony grabbed the door handle and turned it, intending to run upstairs as fast as his legs would take him. He suddenly felt very small and very afraid, more so than from any half-remembered bad dream he'd ever had. Son. Behind him, Antony heard heavy footsteps as his father ascended the cellar stairs. Despite the warning that sounded in his head like a klaxon, Antony turned just far enough to see his father's silhouette framed in the hooded light of the kerosene lamp. Something about the way the lamp swung from his hand reminded Antony of a condemned man hanging from the gallows. As his father drew closer, Antony saw that he was hurt. Blood dripped from his fingertips and pitter-pattered the steps. To the youngest Macario boy's intensifying horror, the wounds were everywhere, on his father's arms, his hands, his bare chest, even his forehead, all sharing the same mark, an eye surrounded by the spokes of what appeared to be 3 inverted Ys. The numerous cuts streamed blood in his father's eyes and fell from his stubbled chin like crimson tears, but somehow, even more alarming, was the look on Macario's face. He was smiling. It was then Antony noticed the bloody knife. When Marco opened his eyes, the monster cockroach was gone. Only a trail of blood and tangled gore remained, leading to the disemboweled corpse of a still dying rat in the same corner he had first perceived the ghastly intruder. His blinding panic was quickly replaced with dire concern for the rest of his family, and he quickly opened the bedroom door. Standing on the other side of it was his little brother, his tear-stained cheeks as white as a sheet. Antony pushed past his older brother and slammed the door. "Marco," he said, gasping. "Something's wrong with Dad." His voice was high-strung, overwrought. "What do you mean?" Marco demanded, his own panic rising again. His little brother shook his head and began to weep. Marco grabbed Antony by the shoulders. He would shake the answer out of him if he had to. But then, from down the hallway, the brothers heard the sound of footsteps. "I think he's hurt," Antony said. "He has a knife, and he's not acting right." He sniffed and wiped his eyes. "We can't let him in here." "But Mom," Marco replied. He looked at his brother dead in the eyes. The footsteps were closer now, just a few feet to the right of their bedroom door. "We have to help her." Steeling himself, Marco placed his hand on the doorknob. "On 3, we run as fast as we can to the room. Don't look back, understand?" Tears flowing freely now, Antony nodded. 1, Marco turned the knob. 2, he took his brother's hand in his own. 3, throwing the door open, they rushed hand in hand into the dark hallway, not daring to look to the right to see if their father was there, waiting for them, knife at the ready. Instead, they turned left, just in time to see the door to their parents' bedroom click shut. As they hurried down the hallway, pounding hearts feeling as if they might explode in their ears, the brothers heard a crash, followed by their mother's scream. What they witnessed when they burst through the door would haunt them for the rest of their lives. The statement ends. What can I say? I am at a wit's end. While Professor Widger interviewed the Macario boys in Baltimore, I took it upon myself, which is no small matter these days, to visit Roxbury Sanatorium here in Arkham to see if any more sense could be made of the aforementioned events on 20 Sheaf Street. Suffice to say, I was mostly unsuccessful. Having spoken to Mrs. Macario, who, in a drug stupor, stated quite calmly and matter-of-factly that an evil presence lived in the house, the year following the incident with her husband, she would sometimes wake at night to find it leaning over her. When it was angry, the thing might cause dishes or other objects to fly around the room. Mostly, it hated her husband, Vittorio, and concentrated its anger on him. She could not be pressed for more information than that, and asked to be excused to her room. She had become very tired all of a sudden. Speaking with Vittorio Macario, which is no easy matter these days, was a fruitless endeavor, to say the least. Borderline catatonic, he was able to provide me with little in the way of meaningful answers. Yet at least one clue was evident. Mr. Macario was quite literally covered from head to toe in a crisscrossing web of those eye-shaped scars noted in Silas's report. This particular fact has a twofold result. It verified the statement made by the younger boy, Anthony Macario, about the self-inflicted injuries his father had incurred on the night of question. And it bore a striking resemblance to the symbol marking Silas's record. When I rolled my wheelchair near for a closer look, Mr. Macario noted my interest and suddenly thrust his arm out to a well-worn Bible he had at his bedside table. Practically hysterical, he read to me the following verse. By his own weapon is the devil worsted. Curious, to say the least. Curious, sir, that there is no mention of such a verse in any known Bible. I believe the time has come for me to inform the new initiates of the true enemy they face. Recording ends.